Good morning, everyone. Well, it has been a bit of a soggy winter, hasn't it? So I thought I'd start with that little clip. Yeah, so obviously red squirrels, as usual, are going to feature on our wildlife cameras. Generally, obviously, these cameras only tend to pick up the larger mammals and birds, but it's obviously a really good insight for us in terms of our monitoring, so that we can understand what's there, how it's doing. And of course then that informs our work and what management interventions we do within the woodlands and wider habitats. So obviously red squirrels are one of our key species here on the estate, and that's why we do most of our woodland management. I love this little clip here with the blue tit splashing on the camera. Yeah, so these guys are obviously doing really well, which is great. I had a few concerns over the last 12 months with grey squirrel incursions. I'll chat about that a little later in the video. But I did like this little clip here. Made me sort of partially spit my coffee across the desk when I was reviewing the footage. It's just totally pigged out and contemplates for a little while whether it needs some more food and goes back in there again. Just made me chuckle. So what else has been happening around the estate? Well, in winter, obviously, as you'd imagine, sort of things slow down a little bit, but generally speaking, everything's all about the food. And that's no different for the likes of the predatory birds on the estate. So we've got this long-eared owl here over at one of our other sites, and it's got its eyes on some of the rats, and it just had a crack at one of the rats down there at the log there. You can even see some of the other eyes in the area that are reflecting from the infrared camera light. I don't think it got it in this instance. Comes back empty-footed, but beautiful birds. We regularly see the long-eareds on the cameras now, especially around our feed stations, because as you'd imagine, they pick up some of the rodents. Oh, and yes, of course, the fox pays a visit to the area as well. I don't really feature the foxes on the videos that much. I mean, they always pop up. Got quite a nice daytime footage clip as well. Yeah, you know, the foxes are around. I suppose I think them as being fairly common, I guess, but I know obviously not everyone gets a chance to see them. Looks really good in their winter coat. Now, what really interested me about this particular camera site, so this is in a section of wet woodland in what's called a ride. So like you've heard me talk about gaps within the woodland canopy where you get sort of scrubby growth, and this bird here is a woodcock. Now I put some clips up earlier on in the year about this, and there's two of them here, which is brilliant. So these are waders. They're a species of conservation concern nowadays. There's been quite a significant decline in their breeding population, about 29–30% since the 70s. Those causes are primarily likely to be due to recreational disturbance, which is why we have a request everyone keeps to the trails. But also woodland condition overall, so woodlands are actually starting to dry out more, and you hear me talk about wet woodland, and it's a really important sub-habitat, so that's why we're restoring a lot of the wet woodland within the estates, woodlands themselves. So yeah, I've got the jays, of course. I've got a bit of a soft spot for jays. I think they're absolutely fantastic birds. They've got fantastic little characters, and they will follow around the red squirrels and basically go and steal the food that they've cached. Now, I've turned the volume up on this clip, and you can hear this particular this particular red squirrel is really agitated. This is a feed site on one of our boundary border areas. You can hear the noise it's making, the big tail swishing, really agitated. And we had two cameras on this particular site, and when we lined up what was happening below this camera, we discovered, of course, that a grey squirrel had turned up on the estate, and this particular squirrel that turned up, it took us 27 weeks to be able to get this squirrel. It was very difficult to get. But you can see how agitated these guys were, and of course we want to minimise any interaction between reds and greys, because it takes one grey squirrel, there it is there, carrying the squirrelpox virus, and we could lose our entire population of red squirrels. Now this is the real gem clip here. This is filmed by one of our tenants on the estate. This is a beautiful little stoat. Now these are tiny little mustelids, so they're actually smaller than a rabbit, but they're incredibly strong. Now I've slowed down this clip here because lo and behold, it's doing a fantastic job at controlling the big rat population explosion that we've experienced across the country this year. So there's a rat, and you can get an idea of the size of the stoat against the rat. That's He's a reasonable sized rat. But wow, really powerful. They primarily hunt rabbits. Spring Watch has had some really good clips of the stoats catching rabbits as well. What a great clip. Anyway, thought that was a nice little roundup. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support, and we'll see you next time.